today's session is basically talking about the modern integration strategies that you've adopted, how it has helped your businesses provide better experiences to your customers at the end of the day, right? But before we talk about the strategies themselves, I'd just like to spend a little bit of time understanding what your businesses looked like before you started adopting those strategies, what the pain points were that you were facing, and why it actually led to you looking at new strategies that would help you. So Nebyat, if you wouldn't mind going first, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arya, for the kind introduction. So before WSO to come into the picture, we are using point-to-point integrations. As a financial institution, there was like a growing demand for sharing data and services for not only for our internal systems, but also for external systems as well, for fintechs, corporate customers, and so on. So that growing need has been steadily increasing. So we have been using our own internal teams to do those integrations based on the requirements of our customers. And what is happening is our team have been using different technology stacks, and they have been using different standards. So there's like a lack of standardization with respect to integration. So that is one big challenge that we are facing. So as more and more integration come into the picture, developed using different technologies, you can clearly see the challenges that you're facing in terms of maintainability, in terms of scalability, and also time to market as well, because there is a bit of a push for digital transformation at the government level in Ethiopia, and with that comes more and more partners trying to get services from the bank like ours. So we're not able to deliver the integration projects as quickly as we would like to be. So that is the main challenge actually, different tech stacks, different standards and patterns that are used internally by our system, and lack of standardized approach for integration that follows best practices.
Thank you, Nebyat. Dilip, I'll come to you next, because I'm sure at an organization like Reliance or Reliance Jio, there are thousands and thousands of systems that you use, so I'm sure you face some similar problems as well. And I know you started that 25 years ago, and obviously things were very different then, but maybe let's say we look at it 5 years ago and what things look like, and then what kind of problems you were facing at that point in time.
Like as Nebyat mentioned, that the point-to-point connection was always a pain for any IT development team. And we have done our transformation journey, started in 2012 via implementing TIPCO as a SOA architecture. During that time, the SOA was an epic, and MSA was not born at that time. So from TIPCO, we have implemented like MSA, the SOA architecture for our business needs, and mainly for, at that time Jio was also not there, so mainly for the O2C and the retail business. And later on, the Jio comes, and as Ashish mentioned in his keynote, it was a huge volume, and we need elasticity, scalability, security, and all those things. Then we moved from SOA to MSA architecture. And during that time, we have built in-house integration platform for our internal needs, as well as to expose the API to the external world, like our customers, partners, and government agencies. That's where we have implemented WSO2 API Manager and identity server as our key provider. And we have done, since it is open source, we have done some customization based on our need, because we wanted to integrate our SAP with our other products, and where your SAML, standard SAML, which needs to be tweaked as per our requirement to do the SSO with SAP and other stuff. So yeah, we have implemented WSO2 in a big way.
Interestingly, Jio doesn't actually use WSO2 integration, but they use our API management. And
I'll just give you the example. The IDP what we are using is for our internal, near about 200 applications who are doing the SSO with IDP, and our IDP is our main entry point for all applications. Behind that, there are many Windows AD, many OpenLDAP, many Oracle identity providers. So for application, the entry point is WSO2 and the rest is behind the scene. So for all the users across all line of business, whether it is a GO or retail or O2C, for them the SSO is smooth because of the IDP implementation and the customization based on our need.
I see. So Sundar, I think you joined Chola approximately 2 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. So you've been instrumental in the transformation initiatives since then, and especially using WSO2 integrator as well as API manager in those initiatives. What was the landscape in Chola like when you joined, and what were the main pain points you were facing that led to you looking at new integration approaches?
Right. I think Chola Insurance, Chola MS Insurance, is there for almost 25 years right now. And then throughout, I think the insurance company is all I see in the IT architecture as well. It's all sales driven. There are a number of sales channels, mediators, brokers, dealers, partners, banks, and so on. Number of different sales channels kind of run Chola on the sales side, and that is evidently kind of depicted in the architecture as well. There are a number of silo systems developed for sales channels, if you would like, and the architecture is way too silo to really scale into a size. And that's when I think Chola started hiring new mindsets, and then we would want to do the full transformation. And immediately the first call is out to get out on the API first architecture, and our first choice was none other than WSO2. So we started with WSO2 API manager because moving from the legacy system entirely into WSO2 in one shot is not going to be easy. So we want to first introduce the layer, give the core capability to the core system to expose APIs and identify the dependencies on the external world and the internal world as well. And then start with the pass-throughs, like a blue-green deployment for the external sources. We started implementing. We were given like two services, like the legacy service as well as the new service as well. And then slowly we started migrating them for the last 2 years into API Manager. Then obviously comes the need of doing the integration, the orchestration, mediation, transformation, and so on, to avoid the redundancy and then improve the reusability of the existing services. So then of course we had to upgrade to MI a couple of years back, and then right now we are in the middle of the journey. I still see quite a lot of opportunity, traveling with you all.
Thank you. We look forward to continuing the partnership. So maybe we can just spend a little bit of time. You spoke about like the technologies that you thought, like why you adopted WSO2 and so on, right? But can we talk a little bit about like thought process behind looking at a new technology? What factors do you evaluate when you need to choose a new technology, and ultimately the decision points that you, or the decision criteria that you make when you want to choose a new technology? Maybe we could start with you on that point.
Yeah, okay, so when it comes to selecting a specific integration platform, we would have to look into a number of factors basically. One is of course standardization. That's whether the platform supports the industry's best practices with respect to integration. And one thing that we've come to realize is the fact that WSO2 support enterprise integration patterns fully. And that is quite important because most of the integration use cases that we typically need or we may need in the future somehow falls on those enterprise integration partners. So that is one thing. And the second one is, of course, specific regulatory requirement. For instance, in our case, all basically platforms that deals with customer data and transaction have to be deployed on-prem. That means, of course, the platform have to support that deployment model. But we do not want that to end there. I mean, in the future, of course, regulatory requirements continuously evolve and change. So we want it to be cloud native as well at the same time. So that's perfectly, WSO2 perfectly fits in that category as well. But the most important thing is probably the fact that it's open source. I mean, if we choose to do so, we could have used the system without paying a single penny, right? So that is also something that we have seriously considered while selecting the platform. And I mean, there are a lot of integration platform providers that are quite expensive and yet provide the same set of functionalities. So platform like WSO2 that is lightweight, that supports both monolithic as well as microservice architecture, and that implements all the enterprise integration patterns, perfectly fits with our requirements. I mean, other things like scalability, time to market also plays a role while selecting such a solution.
Thanks, Nebyat. Dilip, you also mentioned open source earlier and the customizability aspect of it. Is there anything else that you were looking at from a technology selection point of view during the last few years?
Yeah, mainly the trigger point was the COT solution we were using for integration, and there are some challenges which the product is not able to handle it. And we want some customization based on the scale and the size of our requirement. And I think I am the first person who has requested WSO2 since I think 6 years back that WSO2 should be on Kubernetes. So that's where the open source is the major pointer for us to implement WSO2 API Manager as well as Identity Server.
Thanks, Dilip. And Sundar, from your point of view?
Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we needed certainly the API first architecture and the connecting point. And then we need a robust system, and we're not using the open source version of yours. We have gone with a paid license and the support as well. And I think WSO2 have a good architecture in terms of layering the API manager and then the micro integrator coming in well for us. The timing was good, because we wanted to move our legacy system into smaller microservices and then expose them as APIs. And we thought the micro integrator component is going to be a good asset to us in the architecture. And that's one of the key reasons I would say that we chose WSO2 from API Manager and then beyond. Yeah.
Thanks. And I guess as a follow-up to that, when WSO2 or any technology for that matter, it's very unlikely that that's going to be the only technology that you're using in your organization, right? So could you speak a little bit about how our technology works well or works with the other technology in your organization that you're using? So maybe Sundar, you can go first, because again, I think the open source, the fact that we have many extension points and stuff like that helps with that, but it would be good to get your opinion on that.
Right, so we've had choices we had two choices if you want. We wanted to use the gateways from the cloud native systems like AWS gateways or WSO2. And then we want to build the synergy also in our enterprise architecture. One, we would want to use AWS Cognito for the IAM, or we should go to the WSO2 route. But we primarily evaluated the API management and the monitoring capability through the Elastic setup and so on. Is actually really good for us compared to the AWS API limited gateway editions. And the subsequent extension of the micro integrator also we see as a value add. And that's one of the reasons that we kind of see WSO2 from our organization perspective more on the API gateway and API management side, a full-blown solution, a dedicated solution. And probably the other solutions have got a few other features and they are not completely focused, I would say. Some of the features, some of the support levels are not as extensive as WSO2, and then it became a natural choice for us.
Thanks, Sundar. Dilip, Ashish mentioned in the morning that you're also using APG, Kong, and so on, right? So there is a lot of different technologies that you're using as well. So how does WSO2 kind of fit in with the overall technology landscape at your organization?
See, we have multiple API gateways based on our need and the companies what we acquire. So if we acquiring say XYZ company, they might be using some gateways. So it is not possible for us to overnight switch over from the existing API gateway to the WSO2 to give the seamless business experience. But based on our understanding, the WSO2 will be a tough competitor for APG and Kong, and we have to think that without any business interruption, how we will migrate all those services from the respective API gateways to the WSO2, because now it is on a Kubernetes cloud enabled, so it is auto scaling and all those things are available. Though previously it was like on VM and stuff. But yes, everything goes hand in hand as of now, but we have to do the balance between the business execution and the technology migration.
Thank you. And I guess moving on now, we spoke about like why we needed a modern integration strategy. We spoke about the technology we chose for it. And now you all have all gone through and done your integration strategies to some aspect. Obviously, modern is relative, so you need to continue implementing new strategies or continue to modernize. But if you take your business today, let's say by adopting this modern integration strategy over the last 2 to 3 years, what kind of benefits and results have you seen across your organizations? Nebyat, if you would like to go first.
Yeah, so I mean, we have been using WSO2 for almost a year now, and we have yet to migrate all of our existing legacy integration into WSO2 platform. Primarily, we're using the micro integrator right now, but we're planning to also use the APIM in the future, especially when it comes to providing APIs within the context of open banking to fintechs and the likes. Okay. So we've planned for that. But so far, what we are able to achieve is, one is standardization, as I've mentioned. Now we are not worried about a specific integration developer working on Python and another one working with Java, for instance. So pretty much every member of the integration, the system integration team is working on the same platform. So it's highly maintainable integration that we are currently delivering. So that is one thing, that Mr. X can develop the integration and Mr. Y can later on modify it when the need arises. And some of the integration that we currently already deployed in WSO2 are very critical integration that involves money, basically financial transactions from two different systems, let's say from mobile money operators to a bank and vice versa. So it is important to have that standard and a high level of maintainability. But I think on the top of that, again, initially when we decided to go with WSO2, as a matter of fact, when we decided to move away from point-to-point integration to sort of like a centralized integration platform, one of the reasons is like there are a lot of projects on the pipeline, and our team, we have a very limited number of resources that on our hand that's working on the integration. We're not able to cope with that demand. So one thing that we are able to achieve is, of course, reducing the time to market. Now, projects, especially relatively simpler integration projects that consume APIs from our partners, can actually be released very quickly. And then, of course, we have scalability and availability based on the architecture that is recommended by WSO2. We are able to deploy the micro-integrator and APIM in a clustered environment. That means we've achieved high availability and scalability as well. So that is also something that we are able to gain as a benefit with this project, at least in this short term.
Thank you. Sundar, from your perspective, is there an example you could share? For example, let's say before your integration strategy or new integration approach, if it took 5 days to complete an insurance claim and the payment to the customer, by adopting such a strategy, how much time have you been able to save in terms of completing that process?
Right, I think we have already gained a lot of benefit in terms of reducing the manual operation. Insurance industry works this way, like, so you have to do it in T+1, whether manual or by digital. The key differentiation before and after would be the number of satellite system, consolidation of the enterprise architecture, and making it more effective for partner integration. So before, we've had somewhere around 225 applications supplementing different sales channels in their own form and shape. Now those has reduced to 45 applications, meaningful applications, and most of them have become services or APIs. That's a significant improvement for them. which means the cost and effort to manage has come down, and time to market in terms of establishing, expanding our sales channels has increased at least 3-4x. We are not maximized to the full capacity yet, but already it gave us a lot of capability. As we speak, we have moved entirely the services for 2 business lines inside the insurance product lines itself into WSO2 architecture. So that is a great benefit for us.
Thanks, Sunil. And Dilip, from your perspective, are there any specific examples you can share in terms of faster time to market? Or I think Ashish spoke about the fact that you can onboard one customer every 7 seconds, so I think that's a great example of that. But anything else that you could share along those lines?
No, mainly the faster time to the market, because we have integrated WSO2 API manager with our CI/CD pipelines. So whenever the developer commits his code and the build and release cycle will run, it will automatically read your OpenApp API specification 2.0 and publish the API with a new version to WSO2 API manager. So it will be available to the customer and channel partners to try it out, the new version, new features, whatever we are offering to them. So that is a major advantage for us to, it's like blue-green deployment where you roll out the new feature and you don't want to compromise on an existing feature. So there's 2 versions of the same API which is running on API manager.
Thanks. So I have 2 questions left for each of you. We have about 7 minutes left. I just want to see if there are any audience questions before that. So implementing any new strategy or any new approach is not straightforward, right? There are always pitfalls, there are challenges that come up. What would you say, let's start with Dilip. What was the biggest challenge that you faced during this transformation, and how did you overcome that?
The main challenge is adoption of the new technology. Then you have to shuffle your entire resources from technology A to technology B, and it is not just retrain or upskill to them into the new technology, but it is also a long-term maintenance perspective also, because once you implement and roll it out in production, then you are bound to support those things lifetime. So that is the major challenge while you are switching the technology from A to B, and we have to build internal COE team for WSO2 so that at least any other business or any other business vertical want to implement or want to reuse the same thing, we are there to support them.
Yeah, I guess convincing people to change is the hardest part, right? Why should they change? I think, Sundar, you were nodding your head as well when Dilip was speaking. So,
yeah, I think I can only second him on that one. Adaptability was a main challenge, especially for insurance company, to change the way they operate. People want to see the results. I think when we showcase the results, even in a smaller scale, I think then the adaptability came into picture. Till then, the moment there is a lot of resistance, the moment you say there is a change in technology approach or system, and then we're going to bring down your favorite system which you've used for 10-15 years, it's always going to be a challenge to convince them. But when you show faster productivity, faster market turnaround, and in a good showcase to handle the real customers on the ground, to onboard them really faster, then I think the game started changing for us.
Thanks. And Nebyat, what about your perspective? Because I know like the banking industry in Ethiopia is pretty heavily regulated as well, right? You have to be 100% on premises. Was that a challenge as well, or was there anything like specifically technology related?
Yeah, and that is not a challenge as such, because we've deployed WSO2 on-prem, obviously, since it supports it. But the challenge is kind of similar with my fellow panelists have said, basically. Of course, there is a bit of resistance to change. I mean, you can imagine like a low-code platform like WSO2 is quite easy to implement integration projects. But for a senior developer that have been working with, let's say, Java or Python for a very long period of time, it's still easier for them to develop integration using those platforms as opposed to learning something new. And the fact that it's a low code and this designer-based IDEs and so on, to a certain extent, might actually turn off some of the programmers, right? They would still like to do, those hard coding based point-to-point integration. So that is trying to convince that is one challenge. So in our case, what we did was, instead of going with the big bang approach and moving all of our integration at once, we have selected integration use cases that are supported by WSO2. Each distinct use case is selected, and we decided to implement those and go live with it. And that's our cutoff time, that any new integration from now on would actually be done using WSO2. Otherwise, it would have taken us a very long time, and then we would have to put on hold the existing integrations that were in the pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because trying to go with a big bang approach never works, right? It takes too long, and there's always a likelihood of something going wrong. So focusing, I guess, at the start on quick wins to show that something is working is very important as you go along. It's a journey at the end of the day. So last question for each of you. I know we've spoken a lot about AI and all where the future is going, right? But I know, as Sanjeeva mentioned yesterday, we need to make sure that it's not just a hype as well, that it's something that will be sustainable and go on for many years, right? We are not looking at something that's short term. Where do you all see the future? What is next in terms of trends for you all? What are you all keeping an eye out of, and what do you see adopting? What do you see yourselves adopting next, whether it's AI or something else? Maybe Nebyat, you want to go first, and then Sundar and Dilip.
Yeah, yesterday we were participating in some of the lab sessions, and we have seen how WSO2 also incorporated AI-assisted coding into the overall integration development product, and we're quite impressed by it. I think we cannot avoid that. If one of the reasons for selecting WSO2 is time to market, reducing time to market, and AI would become quite beneficial in that aspect as well, right? It would make even the integration process quite faster. So I think we're planning to migrate the existing version to the one that supports AI. And we're also thinking a couple of other things, like event-driven architecture, for instance. There are a lot of integrations in our bank that relies on events. So it's only natural to move to event-based architecture that relies on Apache Kafka and RabbitMQ and so on. And also, I've mentioned earlier about open banking, because now we keep seeing more and more fintechs coming, knocking our doors for new services and sharing data. And we can't keep creating new APIs and services for them. So we'd rather have a standardized set of APIs that are developed using open banking principles. So we're planning also to do that as well.
Yes, certainly I think the AI space is something we have to watch out, I guess. Otherwise, probably in the next conference, you guys might be building an insurance agent. I just saw some HR agent and other few agents coming as intelligent agent. This is some space fascinating to me, and then it is also kind of reminding me that the cycle of technology change has reduced from the decade to 5 years to 3 years. Then probably I think you need to be a lot more sharper. And you guys have done a good job in making an attempt, and right now having a beta version of Day 1 going on. This is a space that I would be watching really keen, because this will change the insurance domain as well. The whole micro-integrated coding that we have done may be redundant in a year. So we may have to think about an insurance agent, really an intelligent agent, right? So probably that's the space I would certainly watch out for.
Thanks, Sundar. And Dilip, to close off, if you don't mind.
I think at 3 o'clock session there was a slide where it is saying integration for AI and AI for integration. So that is interesting, and actually we are looking for an agent who will monitor the API and who will do the auto-hailing of the API to reduce the timeout or to reduce the outage of API. So that's what I was looking for, the AI agent which will help me to monitor and auto-hail my API to give me the seamless experience for my users.
Thanks, Dilip. Thank you, gentlemen. That was great, and thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you're not using WSO2 integration today, I hope this session convinced you that you should in the future. Thanks for being a part of the integration sessions as well. We hope you enjoyed your day. As I mentioned before, the Birds of a Feather session are going on the 8th floor, and also the cultural session, cultural evening is also on the 8th floor, just past where the keynotes are. So please make your way up to the 8th floor, and yeah, enjoy the evening. Thank you so much.